Danessa Myricks is one of the most buzzworthy Black-owned brands on the market today. However, the public emphasis on the race of their founder, which gave rise to the brand in the mainstream, is very reductive to their history, and in fact, even their real major selling factor was far from the brand's original point of difference as well. So, how in the hell did it become the success that we know today? This video is sponsored by Particle, but more on them at the end of the video. As seems tradition in cosmetic brands, Danessa Myricks was not founded in 2015, as so many sources claim, but instead all the way back in 2005. Danessa was let go from her job as the VP of an unnamed magazine during a company restructuring all the way back in 1999, and found herself collecting benefits. Knowing that she never wanted to work for somebody else again, she decided on cosmetology as her new career, failing after a one-year hair course before moving on to makeup. This is actually how the company was founded in 2005 as per her LinkedIn page. It was not yet, however, called Danessa Myricks, and instead was called I Make You Beautiful, or IMYB for short. Or at least I assume it was, because there's a gap in the research between 2005 to 2010. By 2010, social media had been growing in popularity, and fortunately for us, Danessa uploaded several videos of this part of the brand. From here, we know that by 2010, the brand had actually had quite a lot of products out in the wild. She shows off in this video that they had eyeshadow creams, which are $22.50, glitters, powders, sealers, which are $12, and an eyelash kit, which was $119. That included an eyelash applicator glove, which is supposed to make it easier to apply individuals. Honestly, from this video and videos that follow it, it is exceptionally easy to understand how she grew the business from nothing. She is really a phenomenal salesperson. It's a standout factor in any of these early videos, and it's very clear this would have helped in these expo settings, which she does over and over and over again. There's so many pictures for several years after this, biggering the team each time. By 2011, they changed their URLs from imakeYouBeautiful.com, which they still own, to shopimyb.com. They began promoting pigments as suitable for lips, which I believe originated from one of her MUAs named Nora Patton in 2010 and just caught on. They expanded into what looks like a lip gloss in 2012 with this Valentine's collection. In 2013, they did launch into Magic Touch sponges. So really, throughout this time, the company was slowly growing in terms of product range, product innovation with the glove, and with their fan base as well, including with RuPaul herself posting about their leopard eyes in 2013. This was around season 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race, so this made quite an impact. This, in short, were to become their differentiators. Firstly, they had product innovation with the lash glove, the sealers, which affected the pigment application, and the new Magic Touch sponges. And 2, in the tribe building of Danessa Myricks herself, her incredible innate selling power, as well as something that fed in from her social media, in which the brand aligned itself as inclusive. Obviously, Danessa is black, so all their pigments work phenomenally well on literally all skin types, although that was never a selling factor that they ever said in any of their expos. That's a hyperbole. She just hadn't really said it at this point. It was part of her personal brand, as I went over earlier, and she did start to bring that in around 2017, but we'll come back to that. It's just a hyperbole. I mean, she hadn't sold it primarily on being a black cosmetics brand at this point. Continuing. She also posted multiple times with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and she even posted pictures with Drag Race alum, including Raja Gemini, who's one of my favorites. But importantly, none of that inclusivity felt forced. All of their socials at the time were very raw, very uncurated. There's enough pictures of her personal trip to Korea and Japan on her Instagram to last me a lifetime. This was not corporate coercion. This was genuinely a welcoming person, and that fed through into her brand, even if the company wasn't yet her namesake, as it was still I Make You Beautiful. For this reason, it was incredibly smart that in early 2016, I believe March, the company rebranded as Danessa Myricks Beauty. The URL changed, the color scheme changed, but that personable ethos stayed. This was their major selling factor. 1, she was a phenomenal salesperson, and 2, she was magnetic. So it was a rebrand to link the brand closer to that incredibly personable founder. Usually, I would say it's a risky thing to use one's full name, but in this case, it's very clear that she was the sales force behind the success of the company. So for this stage, it's a very smart move forward. She brings value to the brand. And seemingly it's that propelled the brand forward. Their first product was called Elevation Lashed by Danessa Myricks, and it played well on their Lash Kit glove, which seemed like it was their best seller from before. But actually these came in 2015 before the official rebrand, so that explains why so many of the biographies of the brand claim that it started in 2015, because this was the first use of the name Danessa Myricks in product. Though she does still hashtag it Team IMYB, so clearly there is a transitional period here. It was not an overnight rebrand. There was also Metals by Danessa Myricks that November, and Enlight by Danessa Myricks also in that November 2015. In fact, we don't see a Danessa Myricks product without her name being a byline until the following year in November 2016 with these hybrid cream color paints that I assume are an improvement on the launch pigment from 11 years prior. It's like second generation, if you will. It's also the first use of the DM logo outside of the website, and it's launched at another makeup show, getting back to their trade show roots, which is just an interesting continuation to note. From there, there's a bit of a gap again in their timeline to take us from 2016 to 2018, this time with the release of Foundations, which was done in collaboration with Lime Life. It was truly a sizable launch into products that perhaps you would have struggled at producing without their help, making use of the facilities at hand to produce something clearly a lot of people were excited for, as at the launch speech, there were 2,000 attendees physically at the in-person event. A huge number, which reminds me to tell you to subscribe to this channel. Very, very grateful for the 50,000 subscribers, but I would love to be at 100,000, so please do subscribe. I think that's the first time I've ever asked in a video too. Anyway, there is once again another gap in the growth of the brand from 2018 as they're slowly enlarging their fan base online. Customers are returning for the good quality makeup, and a great tribe is building from Danessa herself because she's so magnetic, and their new co-owner Gary Eustace, who bought a percentage of the business in 2019. Together, from 2019, they would help to grow the business organically until 2021, when they finally became stocked online with Sephora and changed the packaging of their hero product, Color Fix, which represents 60% of sales, by the way, into tubes. This avoided the pump mechanism, which had a tendency to break and they had complaints about, and so they were clearly listening to this great tribe of consumers that they had grown throughout this time. Sephora exploded interest in the brand. It's really shocking. Several YouTube videos popped up talking about the launch, including their day one product now in its third iteration, and there was a lot of excitement about Danessa Myricks being a Black female-led brand specifically. In fact, there was quite an unusual emphasis put on her race. Save for this one video that I showed you earlier in which Danessa says that her initial goal of making makeup was to make it for people that looked like her, which I will point out was a speech she made in Nigeria, Danessa Myricks had never actually promoted itself as a Black-owned, Black-targeted brand. It had only ever promoted itself as female-led brand, which only happened to really be historically linked with the Black community because pre-owning her own brand, Danessa used to provide written beauty editorials for certain magazines for free. Since then, because her products genuinely worked well for all skin tones, something very hard to find in 2013, she had just naturally, organically found that the melanated side of her customers had become more proactive in their support, and this just led them down a path of using more people of color on places like their Instagram in general. It's just they were listening to their evolving customer base, but it was never explicitly directly targeted towards Black people in the way Sephora PR was now promoting. The Danessa Myricks shift in that sense had been organic towards generally all POC, whereas the Sephora shift was strategically done to be specific towards Black people. That's what made the Sephora PR framing feel a little bit off. Danessa Myricks inadvertently had a big POC following from having great product, which was the value for Sephora, but she never really used that reception herself as part of the marketing thus far in such an explicit way. Danessa Myricks was a Black-led brand for all that just happened to have an uncommonly large POC following from her personal following well before she had a brand. So in that sense, it can be a bit jarring hearing the media reduce the brand to only being valuable for Black people just because it now had a benefit to another company. As Allure points out, the stocking of the brand in Sephora had much more to do with Sephora's positioning strategy than about championing Danessa Myricks and/or genuinely supporting Black voices. Quote, "Last year was a long overdue time of retail reckoning spurred by Sharon Shooter's Pull Up or Shut Up challenge. In addition to sharing statistics on Black employees, especially in leadership positions, major retailers also committed to filling their shelves with more Black-owned brands and partnering with experts in the space to achieve diversity-centric goals with a conscience." This was in an interview with Danessa that they said this, and actually Danessa goes on to say that she was wary of being quota pick for Sephora, who were obviously doing this just in response to the controversy surrounding Black Lives Matter, in which Black-owned businesses were not being represented well within retail stores. Sharon Shooter, who's the CEO of Uomo Beauty, pointed out that it is in their responsibility as stockists to fairly represent their full customer demographics. And obviously she is right. But it is equally as understandable that nobody wants to be a diversity pick. No one wants to feel reduced in that way. Myrick says in the same interview, quote, "Sephora was thoughtful and present when it was time to have difficult conversations around inclusion and diversity and were mindful of the commitment it takes for a small brand like mine to scale at this level." So clearly she weighed the options of being a diversity pick with the prospect that in being in a store like Sephora, it could help her company scale. However, it was this offer that encouraged Danessa and Gary to find outside financing to meet the demand. This is when VMG Partners got involved through their new subsidiary, Parity Collective, who had also similarly been introduced in the wake of Black Lives Matter to get VMG investing in Black-owned businesses. For a company that had always grown without the need to rely on their founder's race as a selling point, from interviews you can tell this was clearly difficult for Danessa, almost a reductive decision to make. Fortunately, however, though it wouldn't have been easy to take on such a huge risk, it really did pay off as searches for the brand grew exponentially with the new stockist, barely even dipping between holiday sales. Reviews equally surrounded that aspect of it. Race was a big topic of discussion at this point, so it was nice to see a real effort put into that from creators, but largely, the reviews were just stellar. There's literally never been any major complaints of quality or prices, which have slowly gone up over the years. There's literally no scandal to report in this company at all. Literally, it just afforded the company promotion towards a much larger demographic of people, and they were discovering a brand that had had almost 10 years to work out little kinks. It wasn't an overnight success. And so the qualms that one usually sees in launches from brands like Rhode or Glossier, Youthforia, they had been worked out well before the brand had found a wider mainstream audience. It's grassroots and it comes with the benefits of that. By 2023, they were stocked in brick-and-mortar Sephora stores and they'd released a string of new products, each to bigger and bigger successes. They also launched in Cult Beauty in the UK around the same time, as well as Sephora UK and Canada in 2023. Australia, I believe, also got the brand in 2023 as well, but I couldn't actually find the stockist specifically, just that they were there in 2023, which seems to suggest that this was the next huge push for global visibility of the brand as a strategy for the future. Simultaneously, they'd also been really championed on TikTok because of their really good product quality and because of Danessa's personal just gravitas. It does give them that organic promotional perspective that adds a lot of believability to customer reviews. This is translated into sales as well. If we look at the sales data collected by my sponsor Particle, we can see that not only have sales maintained at a high for the last 2 years, but have peaked in August 2024 and May 2025, even more so than they were peaking during the obviously influential Christmas season. Now, this data is derived from various sources like online sales, inventory, pricing, assortment, and sentiment across all of e-commerce, and then it's compiled into quantitative information. But because of that, we can see that their blurring balm powder was their top product, and third is the blurring balm powder flushed. This is interesting because the flushed version only actually came out in August this year, and yet is already one of their top 3 selling products. So clearly, this means that sales are well distributed across products, as their sales increases obviously aren't linked to one specific product. In fact, if we look at their top products listed here, we can see this quantitatively through things like estimated sales volume and estimated revenue. This clearly means that her audience trusts their products and are becoming repeat customers with, across their top products, exclusively very positive sentiment. We also know that Danessa Myricks is really actively listening to her customer because just last month, or at least last month when I was scripting this video, the Yummy Skin Liquid Blurring Balm Spray is about to be released, perfectly reflecting the top products within the brand. Genuinely, I'm surprised to have found truly nothing negative about this brand whatsoever in researching for this videos. I know you guys know that I dig quite deep and they do take a long time to make, so for me to have found nothing is quite the feat. I also don't really see a point of weakness for the brand. Their price is mid-priced, which is good. Product reviews are stellar. Place of purchase is elite. Really, the only thing that I can come up with is that they don't currently have a very distinct target market. While the products are great, they've never really been geared specifically to one particular type of customer in the way that some of the articles try to box them in with. Truthfully, I'm surprised that so far Danessa Myricks has managed to get so far without a very well-defined target market. It's just very rare, especially nowadays in cosmetics. And although I am aware a lot of their success has come from luck from being discovered thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, luck in itself is a combination of preparation and opportunity. And clearly, with Danessa's incredible talent for sales, clearly they were well poised for this expansion. For this reason, I expect theirs to be a very classic route to go down, to continue to grow as much as possible over the next couple of years, growing that organic consumer base, building that tribe of consumers based on that really genuine inclusivity that Danessa herself has extruded all of this time. And then when the time comes and they've got a couple retail stores under their belt, to sell to the highest bidder, satisfying that private equity shareholder at VMG. And yet, however long it has taken to get to this point, it's been a long journey. However well the company has been balanced on Danessa's shoulders, when that does come, I genuinely hope that she does sell and makes an absolute mint. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe. For videos like this, but about fashion brands, do check out my fashion channel Understitch here, and a special thank you guys out to my patrons over on Patreon for their ongoing support. All content used in this video is done so in accordance with the principles of fair use. However, if you have any concerns, please contact me directly at contact@understitch.co.uk.